Now, town planning is crucial to ensure the right infrastructure is in the right places. However, according to the president, the country does not have enough town planners, and this raised the ire of the town planning fraternity. Well, they say that President Ramaphosa is trying to shift the blame from government's poor planning. And for more on this, I'm now joined, of course, by Tobela Twala, Chief Town Planner, to take this conversation even forward. Quite a concern in the country we are seeing. Tobela, good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time this morning. I think we had this conversation before about your thoughts on the president's comments, definitely saying that, speaking as a town planner, that's not the case. There are skills in place and town planners qualified at that who are ready for the work, but it seems that red tape is just at this point too dire. But in a sense, do you think the post-apartheid government has addressed town and special, redress in this country as far as, infrastructure shortcomings are concerned?
Good morning, Dumelo, and thank you once again for this opportunity. Well, that is quite a... I think there's a short answer and then there's a long answer in that regard. Well, okay, I'll just refer, for example, to the South African Institute of Civil Engineers report. There's a race report that was released, I think, a week ago or so, which is a report card basically assessing for example, the infrastructure and services that are available and how are we doing as a government, basically, since 1994. And the short of this is that for the first time with their report, they actually released that, for the first time, we actually got a D rating, which is basically, it shows that we're actually doing quite badly. We are in a very risky and basically our infrastructure is going to fail and it's collapsing. That's what the report is saying. But when you look at the comprehensive report in its entirety, infrastructure, like, for example, the Gautrain, has received world standard rating from the same report. But obviously, then you've got your issues like your water provision, you've got electricity and roads on the general, you know what I mean? That because a lot of the roads are actually collapsing. So that's actually part of the concern. So, but one thing that I wanted to allude to, Dumelo, that we should be aware of is the phenomena that actually take place when it comes to like your urban setting. Like take, for example, a city like Joburg or your other metros for that matter. You've got phenomena like, for example, urbanization that takes place. It has always been taking place since 1994. People have been moving from the rural areas to the urban areas, right? So that puts a lot of pressure within the urban infrastructure and services, right? And then you've got the population growth. I mean, just now, for example, we were just told about the 8 billion rand status quo of the global population. So the people are actually multiplying, you know what I mean? We actually, there's just population growth. And then the last one then is the immigrations. Like you've got your foreigners, asylum seekers flocking into the urban cities once again from outside of the country. So all of this basically, like if you explain it in basic economic sense, right? So we've got like the demand, right, of the services and infrastructure within the urban areas based on the phenomena that I just mentioned now.
Right.
So you've got that demand and then you've got the supply, right, which has to now basically catch up to that. So basically now what's basically happening according to the SACE report is that there's a widening of that now. There's too much demand on the services and the infrastructure in the municipalities compared to what we're actually putting through. So government is doing something. There are houses being built, there's infrastructure being put, but basically it's whatever that government is doing, it's not catching up to what is actually demanded. And that is where the issue is. There's actually a huge gap, which is essentially an opportunity, right?
But also with that being said, Tobela, I mean, what could be the reason why government is not catching up at the rate and pace that it needs to? You mentioned the 8 billion population mark, which you've reached as a global community. Why is it that the South African government, and as far as South Africa is concerned, in the SA content, seems to not be catching up? Is there a lack of skills, as the president mentioned? Is it a lack of resources? What could the problem be in your view?
Well, the skills is definitely not a question. You know what I mean? There are a lot of unemployed graduates sitting at home. Like with our previous conversation, I'd actually defended the curriculum, for example, in the universities and everything. So there are graduates who are engineers, town planners, land surveyors, quantity surveyors, sitting at home, especially even after the COVID pandemic. You know what I mean? So there are the people who are actually well equipped, and some of them even have got private sector experience. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of then obviously government has to identify how we actually can merge the two. It's actually an opportunity if you look at it. You know what I mean? So obviously there's this huge demand of infrastructure, and obviously we're not coping with that. But on the other end, on the extreme end, we've got people with the skills sitting at home. So it actually shows you that there's quite an opportunity. There's something that is actually being missed, you know. Can I just refer to, for example, I'm a young professional myself from the National Department of Public Works, right? There's actually an internal study that they did and a bit of an exercise. It's a supply chain model, which is called insourcing, right? Basically, instead of actually now government, as we know, government, they do tenders. So that is outsourcing, like appointing private consultants to do the work for government, right? So at Public Works now, they actually took about 66 projects, right? These are construction projects, but focusing mostly on the professional services. So we took these 66 projects at Public Works and they gave those projects to the young professionals within the department. So that's operations management, right? That's now your young professionals within the department doing that instead of actually taking it out there, right?
Right.
And what actually happened after the whole exercise, which was actually published last year, I actually used it as part of my dissertation for my MBA. Is that government essentially saved about 127 million rand, right, from 66 projects. So that's on average of about 2 million rand that has been saved per project. Look at that. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot
and
of
then
money.
You're also looking at the time factor, right? There's a lot of time that has been saved from that, and also the efficiency, which is also linked to the time. Because now if it's done in-house, it's easier now for the people who are within house to get whatever information that they need and to roll out the thing instead of going through the tender process, right? Because the tender process itself, it's actually time consuming, right? And it's a process, it's systematic. So those are some of the things, so a short of it is that basically with the skills that are out there, we do have an insourcing thing that we can do.
Okay, we have to leave it there, Tobela, due to time, but I appreciate you speaking to me about this. Tobela Twala, Chief Town Planner, joining me this morning, addressing some of the infrastructure issues. I suppose the question being, is the post-apartheid government doing all it can, especially with the pace at which we are going with urbanization and the population growth, not only in the country but around the world? Are they doing all they can to ensure that infrastructure does not continue to decay in the country? And all my